to the Point of Impact podcast with Rick McDaniel. Thanks for joining us today. Get ready to be inspired and motivated to live a high-impact life. Now, here's Rick.
Welcome to the Point of Impact podcast. I'm Rick McDaniel. It's great to have you joining with us again today. We're doing a series of episodes where I'm kind of sharing my golden nuggets of wisdom I've had over the years. And today we're going to talk about something I wish I didn't have to talk about: Weasels, haters, and scoundrels. Part of life is, of course, dealing with people that you don't want to deal with. I like to stay on the positive side of life, so don't really love going into the negative, but at times it's necessary to kind of just lay out there some of the people that you're dealing with in life and how to best deal with them. So we'll get into that in just a moment. That's going to be very interesting and I hope really helpful to you in many ways. But before we do that, just real quick, just want to say we've been doing this 30 days of greater, just finished it up, 30 days of just focusing the entire time on the greater message. And if you have not yet got my book, Greater, Daily Inspiration to Increase Your Faith, I highly encourage you to get that book. You can get it anywhere books are sold, and I would just greatly encourage you, to get Greater, because I think it will just make a huge difference in your life. If you can start each day reading what'll take you about 3 minutes, a short reading, devotion, meditation, whatever you want to call it, that just gets your mind in the right place and get you focused on the greater life that God has for you. It is just, I've just gotten such great feedback from people that are just loving reading it. People who share with me a particular day that it just spoke to them so powerfully, the message for that day, who love the stories. And I just want everyone to have this, but it's very inexpensive. The publisher put it in paperback. It's like $15, and of course sometimes on Amazon and other places you can even get it for less. If you want to do the ebook, man, that's like $7.99 or something. So it's just really a very inexpensive and I think powerful tool for you to have in your toolbox. If you want to live the greater life, you've got to have that daily inspiration, and that's exactly why I wrote Greater. I'm taking the greater message and speaking that message and sharing that message all over the place. But the book is such a great complement to that, because the book gives you that daily inspiration that you need. So by all means, get it. If you're reading it and you love it, we love the 5-star reviews and all those sorts of things. So that would be super great to have you share that as well, and tell other people, hey, this is a great resource that will bless your life in so many ways. If you want a little taste of it, if you're like, well, so not very expensive, but if you're like, before I spend money, then the YouVersion Bible app, the largest Bible app in the world with over 500 million people part of it, they have a 5-day reading plan, which is 5 of the devotions from the Greater book for free. So you could go on YouVersion and just type in Rick McDaniel Greater, and you could sign up for free for that 5-day plan, and that plan will then get you a chance to sample 5 of the devotions and see just how powerful they are. And then after that, you can go ahead and get the book. So that you can't beat that. You can't beat free. And if you're already sold on it and like, yeah, I need this and this will be so helpful. And, maybe you've done different, like 1 year books, devotions every year, but those are very short. My devotions are at least double the length, if not more, and allow, to get into a story and a little more depth and I think, obviously, more inspirational. So if you want something different, then by all means, if you got This Is Living and you're like, oh, I love This Is Living, well, this is the same kind of thing as the book This Is Living, the devotional that I wrote, and you've got 100 new devotions. So take advantage of it. All right. So today, Weasels, haters, and scoundrels. It's like as I said, I wish I really didn't have to talk about it, but if you're going to talk about some real insights, some real gold nuggets of wisdom for for life and for living, then you can't leave out the people part. There's some real surprises in life and some real disappointments when you realize that not everyone's a good person. Not everyone has your best interest in mind. Not everyone is your friend, even if they say you're your friend. And that's hard. It's hard to deal with. And really why I want you to hear this, I was talking with a group of people about their goals in terms of relationships. And what really amazed me was that no one had a goal to get rid of any relationships in their life. It was always about, mostly, by the way, it was about strengthening the relationships they already had, which is great. Very few adding new relationships, which, by the way, I don't care if you're 12, 22, 32, 42, 52, 62, 72. You can always have new friends. There's never a limit on new friendships or an expiration date of that's it. No, you should be looking to develop new friendships throughout your entire life. But the third thing about friendships, strengthen the ones you have, add new ones, is that you need to delete some people from your life. You need to take some people out of your life. And I'm going to talk about that today, that's a part of it. The people around you are the ones you choose. You drew them to you, or you let them remain. I mean, that's just the truth. Identify people in your own life, and then ask yourself if they are one of these three kinds of people: weasels, haters, and scoundrels. And again, I'm going to say you can tolerate weasels, and you can just ignore the haters, but you really have to avoid the scoundrels. You got to, you can't have them anywhere near you. But let's just kind of dig into it. About these three types of people. Now, again, I'm not going to talk about all the good people. I'm talking here today particularly about the bad ones. So I would say about weasels, here's what I would say if you want me to define weasels. Here it is. I think they evade responsibility. I think they lack commitment, and they destroy trust. That's what I think of when I think of weasels. These are the kind of people that weasel out of taking responsibility for their lives and the things that they should be doing with their lives. They don't have self-awareness. They lack self-awareness. It's shocking how many people do. Don't you see? Everyone else sees this. How do you not see this about yourself? They lack self-awareness. And so they then evade responsibility, don't take responsibility for their stuff. They lack commitment. They're the kinds of people that don't want to commit. They can talk a good game, but man, this would be a whole nother one I could do, I suppose, episode. People, vote with their feet. Man, I believe it with all my heart. My life is words, spoken and written words. I mean, that's what I do with my life. But having said that, I am well aware that people vote with their feet. People can say all kinds of things, but if they show up, that'll tell you everything you need to know. And if they don't show up, that'll tell you everything you need to know as well. And they destroy trust. They're the kind of people you just can't count on. You just cannot count on them. Trusting them is not going to end up well for you. And I learned a lot about weasels really early on in my life. As I reflect, I go all the way back to my athletic career. There's just a lot of people that you go, wow, man, these people just do not want to take responsibility, and they lack commitment, and they can destroy trust on a team. This is what will kill a team, is when players won't take responsibility and they lack being fully committed. Now, it's not like it ended, it just began then. And then throughout my life, I've just seen these kinds of folks. Throughout the Bible, by the way, you see it. You can go in the Old Testament, look at somebody like Jacob, like a first-class weasel. That guy, if you want to look at the life of a weasel, just look at Jacob in the Bible, because that guy just exhibited the qualities. And if you went into the New Testament, a guy named John Mark. Now, I must say in his case, he did sort of turn his life around later on, and the Apostle Paul actually said, he could be useful to me. But that was like 10 years later. But man, he quit on Paul, and he lacked commitment, and he evaded responsibility. What's funny is an actual weasel, the animal, is lazy. And this is interesting, within the animal kingdom, don't have many friends. And their coat changes color, which I think is interesting. I'm not saying they're a chameleon. They're not that way. But their coat just does change color. And that is, I think, that's a very telling sign of a weasel, is somebody that, they're one way. And then with other people, they're another way. Now you say, well, can't we all be like this at times? Yeah, we can be weaselly, in a particular situation. But if they're like that time and time again, then if it looks like a duck and it quacks like a duck and it walks like a duck, then guess what? It's a duck. And if it looks like a weasel and talks like a weasel and doesn't show up like a weasel and changes depending on the environment they're in, it's a weasel, and it's, that person's a weasel. Now, I'm saying you have to tolerate them because, they're in the world, and you've got to deal with them in business and in life and in a lot of ways. Now, again, if they're on a team of yours, I'd do everything I could to make them take responsibility, have some self-awareness, challenge them to be committed. When I was building buildings for my church, we would have these things called capital campaigns because it costs millions of dollars to build buildings. And so you got people that, will step up. And man, I was just always amazed at the people that talked a good game. But then it sort of came, the old phrase, put your money where your mouth is. Like, okay, we need you now. Like, we need you. We need you to make a commitment. These kind of campaigns were over 3 years, so it wasn't like you had to write a check that day, but we needed people that were going to say, for the next few years, I'm going to give significant amount of money. I'm going to commit to that, because otherwise, how are we going to have the building that we need, or the buildings, or the expansion, or the equipment, or whatever it is? I mean, everything costs money, and a contemporary type of church with the lights and the sound system, and equipment is huge. So, and then where are they when you need them? Gone. They disappear. They absolutely, every time we ever did a capital campaign, I would just see people disappear. And those are, that is a weasel in a nutshell right there. If you want to know what a weasel is, it's somebody that when you need them and you need to count on them because it's time to do something hard, something big, giving away your money is not an easy thing to do. I'm not trying to say it is. It's hard, but it's necessary, because money doesn't grow on trees and buildings don't get built with, butterflies and wishes, like it takes something. It takes something for it to happen. So the weasels are there. I would, have as little to do with them if you can, and tolerate them to the extent that you have to. All right, the second group are the haters. And to the haters, I would say you ignore them. In the Bible, these are the words to describe haters: envious and jealous. And what I think is fascinating is that in the 10 Commandments, the list of 10 things not to do, one of them is envy. And if you look into one of the 7 deadly sins, now again, the 10 Commandments are in the Bible. The 7 deadly sins, the list of them is not in the Bible, but all the sins that are in the 7 deadly sins are in the Bible. And someone came up with that list many, many years ago. But again, it's the same sort of envy and jealousy thing. So obviously God knew that this would be a big problem for people, that they would be envious, that they would be jealous, that they would struggle with their sinful, wrong ways. Let me give you a sort of a if we're going to go from envy and jealousy to say hater, what's the definition of hater? Someone, and this is important, who not simply wants what you have, but wants you not to have it at all. That's really a hater. It's not just that they're envious and jealous of what you have. They really do, they want it, what you have, but they don't want you to have it at all. I mean, this is like absolutely 100% what they're about. Haters point the finger outwardly rather than at themselves. They shift the focus onto others so they don't have to take responsibility for their own stuff. I mean, that is simply what happens. That is what our culture is become one where, people can have kind of a perverse pleasure in seeing successful people fail. And now there's so many more outlets for them to spew their vitriol. They can hide behind their keyboard and say all kinds of stuff. This is my all-time favorite hater line that this is taken first place from some others. There's some great ones. But I wrote an article for Fox News about this incredibly difficult hike I took on Gros Piton in St. Lucia. Brutal, and talked about, that you're just going to have to overcome things in life. And it was a very inspirational article. It helped a lot of people. And then there's, of course, always all these comments, which by and large, I do not read them. I never read all of them ever. Wouldn't even come close. But sometimes when I'm scrolling down in the article to see, it'll take me down to the comments. So I might look at a few literally on, and it would literally just be 2 or 3 that were on the screen. That's the most I've ever done. But I saw this one, man, and I just laughed and laughed. And whenever I need a good laugh, I just think about it. I've told this story to so many people because it cracks me up. So this is one guy's response to this inspirational article about kind of like, climbing the mountains in your life and overcoming, and you can do it, and all this stuff to help so many people. And this is literally what he writes. Wealthy man takes luxury vacation, has hard hike. That's it. That's what he wrote. Wealthy man takes luxury vacation, has hard hike. Well, really? Like, I'm wealthy? How do you know that? Luxury vacation? Who said it was a luxury vacation? Vacation has hard hike, has hard hike. Hiked up the equivalent of the tallest building in the world, not in a staircase. And imagine walking up and then walking back down the tallest building in the world, 162 stories in air conditioning, and you'd go, no, thank you, I'll take the elevator. Imagine crawling over boulders and, in and outside and, 5 hours. Okay, it's more than a hard hike. But again, it's just hilarious. Like, it is the summation of hateration right there. Wealthy man takes luxury vacation, has hard hike. Okay, well, you are the literal quintessential definition of a hater. But thank you, because you've given me a lot of joy and a lot of laughs every time I think about it. It's it's absolutely great. Here's how I would break down haters. I would say, first of all, haters are commentators. They don't do anything. They just comment on what others do. They are essentially quitters, and they want to feel good about their quitting, so they try to make you quit along with them through their criticism and their hating. When they hate on you, on what you're doing, it's not about you. It's about them. It's about their insecurities. It's about their lack of character. It's about the fact that they are jealous and envious, so they just comment. And of course, it's incredibly easy to do that. Pre-social media, haters they always existed, but they could never reach you. Now, click, hiding in mom's basement, you know, click, click, click. You're a big and tough guy. Your 150-pound little self is big and tough when you're behind a keyboard, you know, a screen. It's a little different when you're in person, but that's just, that's them. They're commentators. Haters or spectators. They don't have any influence in the game. They just watch. I mean, you think about like playing in a championship game, you know? An athlete doesn't take advice or direction from people watching the game. I'll never forget when my athletic career ended and I went from the field to the stands. I mean, I was like, I cannot believe all the stuff that people are saying up here. It really bothered me. I was like, what is wrong with these people? If you think you can do it better, I suggest that you put on the pads and strap on a helmet and you go out there and do it, and we'll see how long you last. So you can't, you know, champions don't listen to the people watching, the spectators, so neither should you. You don't take feedback from people that are not even in the game. People couldn't even hold your jock. I mean, come on, they're spectators. They're not in it. They're just watching it and commenting about it. All right, haters are motivators. Yeah, because one of the best motivations to not quit are haters. If you don't allow what they say to penetrate your mindset and you just keep doing what you need to do, then you can use the fuel to fire you up. Like, let them talk and then let them be like motivators for you. I mean, the greatest example of this is Tom Brady, who would just find any possible way to get a chip on his shoulder and to get motivation by some type of disrespect that someone else did to him, not to mention because he was a 6th round draft choice. He never forgot that constantly motivated, that all these people passed on him and didn't think he was good enough. So you use it as motivation. You let them motivate you. All right. You don't. Yeah. Okay. You keep talking. You keep talking. I'll keep doing. Thank you for the motivation. Appreciate it. Just what I needed. And I would just say this, the more success, the more haters. Just know that will happen. Higher levels, you know, higher devils, you know, like higher levels, bigger devils, whatever you want to call it. I mean, the more you go up, the more that the hating is going to be there. So just ignore them in their commentator, spectator role and let them motivate you in the role of being a hater that you can just take the motivation from. All right. So weasels, haters, scoundrels. Now, these are people you do have to avoid. You have to avoid. A scoundrel has no principles. I was just talking with someone yesterday in the world of finance about the kind of scams that are out there, and they're rotten. I mean, how can you live with yourself when you are stealing money from elderly people, when you are scamming people out of their savings and they're trying to invest so that they can make money for a secure future, and you are scamming them and stealing it from them? I mean, how low, but those people exist, man. They exist. There are scoundrels in this world. There are people who will try to take you to court. I have lived this experience. I know of which I speak. It's unbelievable, the kind of behavior of people. Terrible, absolutely terrible. Jesus called them, wolves in sheep's clothing. Wolves in sheep's clothing. In other words, they look like a sweet little sheep, but they're actually a vicious wolf. And you have got to avoid these people because they will do nothing good in your life at all. Now, why do we have these people in our lives? This is a great question. I have pondered this much. So here's my reasons why I think you have scoundrels in your life. First of all, you played the victim role. If you've played the victim role, poor, pitiful me, that's how you end up getting scammed. They love to swoop in to the victim situation. If you don't play the victim role, if you say I'm a victor, not a victim, then you can get rid of these people in your life. You need to be rescued. If you're in that position where you're like, oh, I need rescue, again, you will have the scoundrels visit you. Better to rescue yourself. Better to have mental toughness, better to have grit and resilience, better to power your way through whatever the hardship or difficulty is. There may be loving people that can help you, and I hope you have those people in your life because you need them. But only those people, no one else. Here's another reason why we choose familiarity. In other words, there are people that we get to know in our lives who reveal themselves over time to be scoundrels. But we're familiar with them, or they go back a long ways in our life, and so we think, oh, no, those are exactly the people I was talking about earlier when I said, why did no one in their goals for relationships talk about the relationships they need to end, they need to delete? There are people you need to get out of your life. They're called scoundrels. And you may have known them for a long time. You may be very familiar with them, but they got to go, which leads me to my fourth reason why, which is fear of confrontation. Like, we know, these people are bad. These people are abusive. These people are toxic. They are not good people. You don't want them in your life. But you fear the confrontation of telling them, yeah, we're just going to go our separate ways here. And it's been nice knowing you, but not anymore. Not anymore. Not working. This relationship doesn't work for me, so we've got to go our separate ways. You can't have these kind of people in your life, I'm telling you. And some of you may be, well, what about the Christian love and all of that and forgiveness and those things? Matthew 18, 1 Corinthians 5 in the Bible, Gospel of Matthew, first book of the New Testament, 1 Corinthians 5, will talk about separation as an option, that it is an option to separate from people, that there are people that you just need to say, yeah, I'm not going to have these people in my life because they're not good. They're not good. And sometimes you've got to end, there's endings and there's beginnings in life, and not all endings are bad. In fact, it can require an ending to have a new beginning. So it's not a negative thing necessarily. What is positively true is that these sort of folks exist, right? Now again, there's lots of good people. Thank God for the friends. Thank God for the mentors. Thank God for all of the great teammates. Thank God for the person that you found to marry that's really a great spouse. But you just have to know that there's weasels out there, and you probably gonna have to tolerate them, but understand what you're dealing with in terms of their lack of self-awareness. They're not gonna own up and take responsibility or make commitments, and you got to know that there's going to be haters out there. The more success you have, the more the haters are going to come around. And again, that they are just envious, jealous people who really don't want you to succeed. And so you just got to ignore them. And to the extent that you use them, you can use them as fuel for your motivational fire. And then these scoundrels, you got to get them out of your life. You can't have anything to. Don't go into business with them, even if it costs you. Don't do it. You will regret it. I guarantee it. Stay away from them. Don't allow them. If they're in your life, get them out of your life. If they're not in your life, keep them out of your life, and you will have a much happier and more peaceful life without them in it. Well, don't like to talk the negative stuff, don't like to live on the negative side, but sometimes you do have to just say, hey, these are some of the realities of life, so I'm going to go back to my positive stuff. But today, I hope you got it. I hope you're listening, and I hope you'll take action in your own relationships. Have a great week.
You've been listening to the Point of Impact podcast with Rick McDaniel. Thanks for tuning in, and we look forward to you joining us for our next episode.